Well, friends, here we are again. Third excerpt from An American in Heaven. Yet another interesting experience for our intrepid heroine, Melanie. And she is intrepid too, I'm not joking. She'll try anything. Here's something different. I know you've heard enough different stuff to last you a lifetime already, but here's something really different. Sonia brought him by a while back. Like if I was on Earth still, I'd say last night, but I'm not and we don't. So not so long ago, Sonia came by while I was just kind of lounging around my room. Actually, I was wondering whether I should maybe get my nails done, which is weird for me as I haven't really cared about that kind of stuff since Earth. Actually, way before I came here. I was flipping through this design book and it's amazing how many they have in there. So intricate. Makes the ones on Earth look sick. Sonia's got this guy Jeff with her, quite the looker too. More manly than I'm used to around here. Teen testosterone isn't manly. No, they all seem to think it is. I wondered if she was maybe trying to set me up with him. Maybe she thinks my thing with Eric is sick or something. My dalliance, as she once called it. Had to look it up before I called her on it, which I did, full bore. Erica dalliance? Oh no. Anyway, she really wants me to hear about Jeff's life here because it's, well, different. See, Jeff was a dope dealer on Earth, called himself a consignment shipper, middleman guy, hydroponic pot, high-grade grow-up shit mainly, some ecstasy from Canada down to California or Oregon. Started out as an independent operator till the heavies moved in and forced him to defend himself. Me with a gun, he said? I never would have believed it. Canadians don't pack pieces, not in the national psych, especially in BC where he was from. Had to take lessons, didn't know about bullets or nothing. Usually just showing you were packing was enough to, get your respect. But his luck, or something like it, ran out, and a little shootout in the woods and he was dead. Spent a couple of what was probably years ghost hunting his killers down, trying to screw him up whatever way he could. Picked up a few tricks on the way, like how to focus your desire into a sharp thrust of energy so it actually affects the physical world. Make doors thump and glass fall and smash, turn on taps and cause floods. Really screwed up their clubhouse, which was built like a fortress. Made it see so they wanted to burn the place down themselves. They even got a kind of African guy who lifts curses to come into the place and do his stuff, but Jeff just stood back and watched some funny colors swirl about that were supposed to make him scared and run away. Then they up and sold the place and moved away. Of course, he just followed them and tortured them some more. Eventually the fun wears thin and he sees vengeance has become his life. Then he realizes he's not just a loser, but a dead loser, which sounds way worse. He's laughing as he tells me this. See, he's not nasty by nature. It's just the way his business evolved. Had to become a shark to survive. So he kind of pulls back to see what else there is. Well, as a lot of us found out, if nothing else, there's flying. So he starts on that Pacific Coast Highway thing, and it became his favorite. Up and down the length of it, hugging all the curves at high speed. What a blast that was. Then it was out over the water to Hawaii and around that part of the world. Maui had this great vibe, so he just stayed. Found a bunch of dead surfers and hung with them. I think you can see where this is going. When he said he met up with someone who offered to really show him around, I said, knew it, it was a guide, right? Sure enough, he gets to the real afterlife and finds out how totally cool it is. Really digs that for a while. Meets up with some buddies and gets his one grandparent and uncle who've passed. There they are. Gets shown all this stuff I've told you about, or most of it. Figures what he really wants to do is go around and inject good vibes into crappy situations. Uses that same focusing thing he'd done to screw people up. I said, "That's for angels, isn't it?" "No, we can do it too," he says. "All you need is the right attitude and a few tips from an old pro." He said he'd nose out trouble wherever and just inject a good dose of good vibes, like topping up coffee with cream. And finding the cups of coffee was no problem. People were always arguing and fighting somewhere. It never seemed to take long. When I say fighting, I mean personal stuff, not wars. A Mr. Good Vibes angel, Jeff was. And he got to just love it. Spreading those loving vibes about, it was like the more he did, the better he felt. Getting folks to kiss and make up through what he called liberal doses of love really blasted him. This love shit was really incredible. He remembers thinking better than any drug he'd ever tried. I thought, a lecture about going clean. But he said, no lecture, just what happened to him. Did I want to check it out? He could take me for a spin. Sounded like a date, so I went for it. Sonia said she had something else to do and disappeared. Jeff and I changed levels almost immediately, and we're back on Earth in no time, buzzing around some city streets. Doesn't really matter where, I guess, somewhere. I just kind of hung back and did what I was told. We found this man and woman arguing, foreign language, but we could feel the vibe, no problem. I think the guy had been drinking. I don't know, he just kind of looked like it. The woman seemed pissed. Maybe he'd been screwing around. Maybe he'd wasted her money. Typical domestic, Jeff says, kind of grinning. I'm thinking it's funny he'd use cop talk when this beam of orangey light comes out of his chest and surrounds the couple like smoke. We wait and watch. It kind of settles on them like dust would if there were no wind. They both seem to slow down and not shout so much as talk. There's a couple more mini eruptions, and then they suddenly rush together and hug. Tell you the truth, it's all a bit gooey for me. Disney gooey. Maybe I'm a conflict junkie, but I couldn't believe it somehow, like Jeff had played some Harry Potter trick on me. But he denied it. Said he was just real good at figuring out where he'd be the most help. Then he took me somewhere else. It was still on Earth, at least as far as I could tell. Then we walked through a wall and I knew for sure. He seemed to know his way around, so I guessed he'd been there before. Big old house, mansion I guess, corridors and rooms everywhere. A lot of art on the walls, mostly boring old crap, gloomy, shadowy stuff, like why anyone would have that on their walls is beyond me. I followed Jeff and we wind up in a bedroom. Well, bedroom and sitting room in one. Lots of space and fancy furniture. Old-fashioned fancy, some easy chairs by a window looking out onto a garden. I'm trying to guess why we're there when a woman appears from nowhere and sits down. Well, slumps down. Depressed looking, wearing an oriental slinky housecoat that I really admire. She looks to me like a spoilt rich bitch, all screwed up about shit that don't really matter. But what do I know, so young and inexperienced and dead? Jeff does another beam of light thing. Goldie flecks in with orangey stuff. It surrounds her, but it's like it can't get in somehow, like she's got some kind of invisible wall about her. Yeah, Jeff says. Sorrow and self-pity. I've been working with her for a while. He doesn't say how he got to know her, so I make a point to ask him later. I see now she's got a set of works in her hand and is getting ready to syringe it. I've known a few kids go that way, bad news all around. You can't beat smack. Best you can do is maintain with methadone, and some say methadone is worse. All addiction and no high. Like gambling without any winnings, ever. Ultimate sucker trip. Jeff's pretty little clouds sort of disappear into her or just kind of melt away, like she's smiling as she lifts her left foot for the needle, and afterwards she's got that blissed out junky look as she nods. We leave her to her bliss, Jeff grinning like he accomplished something. He says, no achievement there, Just wanted to show you a toughie. So she's wrapped up in herself, and she can hardly ever see out. I remembered some book from school called The Prison of Self, but not really enough to say anything intelligent about it. So I just nod and look like I'm agreeing. I probably am, but know that Jeff's kind of got me in a knot. The cute knot. Damn, I wasn't ready for that. He's that kind of serious cute that I could really get stupid about, even here where I'm so dead and wise and all. Next we're in some kind of boardroom, corporate HQ maybe, suits around a table. Choose 2 chick suits as well. Excuse me, but they're all suits. I'm told there was a time when putting a bra inside a suit was considered a turning point in human affairs. Geez, feminism must have been some kind of religion back then. How else could they have fallen for that? Suits are the armor of power. Whoever's in them gets caught in the trap. By my generation, if you want to call those late 90s know-nothings a generation, we'd seen the light. The bullshit of suits corrupts absolutely. That's Eric's, of course. Didn't know one chick in school that wanted to do the suit thing, even the lawyer wannabes. Seen too many Michael Moore movies, probably. So I'm watching the scene, waiting to see what Jeff's got going here. I figure this isn't his first visit, and that he's got most everyone in the room sized up already. Never sat in one of these before and only have TV to go by. Actually, it kind of looks like TV. The expressions, the waving of pens and opening and closing of folders, the wishing that so-and-so would drop dead. One chick's got the neckline and the other's got the legs. Funny really, 6 guys all looking serious and nod at the chicks. Maybe it's marketing or something. Jeff lets go the stream of golden light that begins to swirl about the conference table. Maybe they're bankers or something. It's hard to imagine them getting it on or otherwise having some get-down fun. You know, singing Barry Manilow songs at the neighborhood karaoke and chugging back their whiskey sours. Soon they'll all be kind of swathed in this golden smoky light. Jeff says nothing to me. I think I'm supposed to guess the game plan. I'm having trouble getting past square one. What kind of lift can you give sourpuss sharks like these? And who'd want to, anyway? Well, Jeff would, I guess. I get an answer to my first question with telepathy from Jeff. What you give to sharks like these is love, the kind of love that has no conditions attached. You give it to them and see what they do with it. Sounds like playing with a basket of kittens, I think. Yeah, Jeff replies, in telepathy, that is. That's about it. Well, what if they don't do anything, just kind of suck it all in? Sure, it's a crapshoot every time, but there's no squandering resources here because you can't waste what's already there, what's always there. Any time now, I think he's going to come on like some preacher dude with this pipeline to Jesus thing. Call it what you want, he replies. Make it generic if you prefer. A link to love. I know I'm supposed to think this is cool, and I guess I do. But then there's these sharks in suits drinking all down all this love, not doing anything with it, like fixing third world hunger or whatever. Jeff says, hey, let's focus on being kind to each other at lunch at first. That gets a laugh, and I think I see his point. Afterwards, we move on. He's got this line about action without desired results and how it's neat just to give. He says the love is like an electric current, and having it pass through you is just such a hit that nothing else matters. He makes it sound like high-grade coke. He says it's not a bad analogy, but totally without the come down later. Well, thinks I, you can't beat that. Just one more cool thing about the afterlife, I suppose. The list is getting longer, I know, and maybe you're getting a bit tired of it all being so wonderful and all. I probably would if I was in your place. Jeff must sound like unbelievably hot. Well, hate to brag, but he is. But wait till you hear the next bit. Jeff takes me to this, bedroom really. Somebody's bedroom. You can imagine what I'm thinking. But I don't get any time to think it because a guy and a girl are sitting there, well, kind of sitting there, not looking too happy. Like they'd had a falling out moments before we got there. Jeff tells me he's been here before, been working on them for a while, injecting love into their situation. Okay, I get it. More of the same now? He nods and goes into his thing, and they're surrounded by a lovely rosy light, which slowly kind of melts away into them. Only difference I can see is they begin to talk a bit. Still kind of glum, but exchanging, you know. I recognize the stage. Been there, done that. Usually it's a good sign. You're on your way to a truce at least, if not a full tilt forgiveness session. Then I get this thought from Jeff. Tune into my mind and I'll show you the backstory. Backstory? That's like the background stuff for people in a movie, right? He goes, yeah, except this is their life. Was their life. Okay, so I try to tune into his thoughts. Not easy. You're trying too hard, he says. Ignore them for a moment and just focus on me. Close your eyes. So I do, and it seems to work, somehow. Jeff later calls it a mind merge. That's good enough, I guess. I see the two of them driving somewhere, staring straight ahead like there was something they didn't want to see. They park and get out, walking somewhere, not holding hands, but then they are. It's like a movie, this, and somehow it's Jeff's memory. He hears me and says I was working with them then, tailing them like a private detective. I knew this must be significant, but I can't think how. So they walk into this building, kind of like a strip mall unit, but a little fancier than most. Some nice trees outside and stuff. And then there's some people standing around at the front that they have to walk through. Looks a bit tense. Then we're inside. It looks and feels like a doctor's office. Oh, shit, now I get it. She's in there for an abortion. Not what I want to think about right now. Thank you. So, of course, the guy's there alone while she goes in. Then Jeff fast forwards a bit. She's sleeping and he's sitting watching. I also see Jeff in the corner looking on sadly. Well, maybe not sadly. More sympathetically. He's in his own mind movie. I'm thinking kind of wowed, forgetting for the moment that I'm in there with him somehow. Then there's another fast forward and we're in another room with the two of them, still kind of sad looking, both of them, but not quite so sad. Time heals, I guess. I know it did with me, but then there's something strange here. Bits of the room keep fading at the edges like someone's rubbing them out, but the whole space seems like much nicer than before. Bigger, more luxurious somehow, even if it does keep fading at the edges. I'm working on that one when Jeff whispers, though it's a telepathic whisper. Look, they're dead. Oh, yeah, right. Why didn't I think of that? Loaded up on some really good smack and nodded out without knowing it, he tells me. They think they're still alive in their same room when actually they're dead and buried. So Jeff's just trying to bring a little love into their lives? Can I dig that? Cool, can I dig that? He asks where I got the hipster talk. Me, hipster talk? I laugh. If it was 100 years ago, I'd bat my eyelashes too, but it's not, and I'm not sure where I can anyway. Tried it in front of mirrors 100 times and got the giggles every time. Jeff doesn't seem at all impressed with either my charm or my wit, and we, almost instantly, are in some bar beside some argument quickly heating up. Jeff says in response to my first thought, no. He didn't know this was about to happen, but in this place it's usually a good bet that it's about to. He has to stand back a bit. The guys around the table are arguing about something, sports, politics, religion, who knows. They're past the point where details might tell you, and into the macho bitch stuff. Sure, they're wasted too, beer buttheads. There's some other guys watching, real interested. Don't know why. It's all such bullshit. Jeff flashes some really bright white light at them, and they all jump back or disappear and then reappear. It all happens so quickly I can't really tell. Then he tries a softer, creamier version of the same light for the guys at the table. I watch it settle on them as they shout red-faced. The whole thing seems to peak and then fall apart like they've run out of steam. Soon they're ordering another round and laughing, although it still looks like a powder keg to me. Jeff leans in and says, yeah, they could go off any minute, but it's a challenge to see how long I can pull it off. Or how long I can put it off, really. It was all kind of icky, and I wanted to get away, so we did. I didn't want to seem ungrateful, but Jeff was okay with it. Said they were really just another version of suits around the table, really, but the challenge was the same wherever you went. I asked if we could go back to his place. Kind of forward, I know, but I just couldn't wait any longer. Surprise, surprise, said he didn't have a place, just kind of grooved around, a gypsy, an astral gypsy. There's lots of us, he says. We're just kind of hard to pick out. So I asked him to show me where he likes to hang out when he's off duty, you know. Suddenly we're in the mountains. Some mountains, well, they all look the same to me. Probably the Rockies, but who knows. We're way up high on a ledge overlooking not just a valley, but a range of peaks and valleys in between. What can I say? It's like way beyond breathtaking and into some whole other thing. We stayed for ages, just relaxing and comparing notes. Eventually I can't resist it and I kiss him. Wow, what a vibe, it's electric. Within seconds I felt like opening my legs a mile, but Jeff has other ideas. Figures. Hottest guy I've ever met, and we're like on a mountaintop, and he wants to stop and show me something. Later, I said. Later, that's when the steam coming out of my ears kind of subsides. It turns out he's got this thing where we sit cross-legged and stare into each other's eyes while projecting love from our hearts. Yeah, the same kind of love as before, except between two people. The eye thing is a strain, as are his so beautiful. Oh, man, are they nice. But as we work on it, whatever it is, I do begin to feel a tingle right there in the chest area, which for a girl ain't no surprise. Then it really starts to get like heavy. Big tingle all over, like the build up to an orgasm, but an all body one, instead of down in the swamp there. Jeff says it's called the heart chakra orgasm. I said, call it what you want, it's pretty darn sweet. Of course, I ruin it all by telling him about Eric. How can I say anything up there in all that incredible beauty is crazy enough? But Jeff was cool. Like he really understood. Didn't have any sweetheart on earth himself, but had met plenty here who did and suffered for it. Told me a few stories, then we went back to my own hood. And he said goodbye for now, kind of thing. I gave a big hug and said I wanted to see him again real soon. He said sure and was away. I turned and tried not to cry. Almost succeeded. Another adventure for Melanie. There's lots of them. And I think maybe, 3's enough for now, wouldn't you say? If that doesn't get you interested, I don't know what will. Like I say, all written around 2004, 2005, published in 2009, and now republished as an ebook 2023. The continuum of time and space, I tell you. Always fascinating to me. And welcome to Melanie's wild and crazy ride through the afterlife.